I'm so happy to have this opportunity to meet and speak with Meredith Fogg Liebross. And Meredith, you are in Los Angeles. Do I have that correct?
You do. I'm currently in Ojai, but I'm in Los Angeles and Ojai. I split
How
my time,
how far away
but
is
I
Ohio
but I
from?
teach in Los Angeles. About an hour and a half. Yeah, not
Oh,
far.
wow.
Yeah.
So wait, when you teach in LA, that means you drive an hour and a half to get to the studio?
No, well, occasionally. I mostly spend my time in Venice, in LA,
Uh-huh.
but my family and I have been renovating a little ranch up in Ojai. So
Nice.
we come on the weekends and sometimes, tomorrow's a moon day, so I had extra time. So I came up here after dropping my kids at school. My husband and I occasionally trade just so that we can get a little nature, get out of LA. So it's very different up here. It's ranch land. So I'm fortunate that I get to be in both places, but I teach in LA and me and my kids are in school in LA. So I'm normally there.
Cool. I
Yeah.
appreciate Praniti introducing me to you teach at her studio at Yoga Shala West. That's correct?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. And how long have you been a yoga teacher?
Mm.
Mm,
About a decade. Yeah.
cool. Nice. That's a
Yeah.
good solid amount of time.
I guess I guess I never really time stamped the day, like the day the switch was flipped,
Which was
but about a
flip.
decade. Yeah.
What is one of the stereotypes that you think exist around that switch flip in relation to being a yoga student and now I am a yoga teacher? Is there anything that you find interesting about that?
There's a lot that I find interesting about that. I don't know if it is necessarily a stereotype.
Or something that's
I feel like
related?
it's a strange choice. I feel like choosing to become a yoga teacher is a very strange choice that people make. And
Are
then I
you
don't feel like I made. And I don't think historically that was like a choice that people made. It was more or less of a choice that was made for them.
mm,
Um, so I mean, yeah, the decision to teach yoga as though it's like a career decision. It's always kind of baffled me because it's not a great career in a lot of ways. I feel like those who do it, it's because they can't not.
good
And
point.
it's a bit of a dharmic pull.
Yeah.
Those who do it for, the long run. I think there's a lot of students turn teachers because they are made to believe that if you feel the need to connect more, to go deeper, that that's the next step. And I think that's unfortunately the result of like a business model, the teacher training business model that
Yeah.
tells people that you should become yoga teachers when really all you should do is just become more dedicated students.
It's a great
For
point.
some, yeah. So I don't know if that's a stereotype, but the when that flip was switched for me, I didn't know it in the moment. um, I, I sort of kept trying not to teach yoga.
What was it, a
But it
situation like you were practicing and your teacher said, I'm going to be out of town. Would you be willing to hold down the class? You seem like you know what you're doing. Or was it a situation where somebody said, you really should do teacher training? You should do a teacher training. And then you took a training and then decided to start teaching? How did it evolve for you?
um well, it evolved for me. I was really, I did a formal teacher training. I was just very lucky to have done it with a woman who I think I still to this day have a relationship with and think is credible, a woman named Annie Carpenter,
Mm,
who, she's an old school integrative teacher who's rooted in more than one traditional lineage, and has just a unique ability to both integrate them and then innovate on her own. So I had exposure to uh, you know traditional yoga through her, and that was a very valuable training experience. And I think put me in a really good position to kind of understand my own practice in more ways. And that led to teachers that then became mentors and that shaped my practice. I wouldn't necessarily say shaped my career, because I never really meant for it to be a career. I feel like every time I stepped away from that path, I got pulled back into it. And this last round was, Pranay and I just started trading off during maternity leaves, basically. So we have
Wow.
5 small children between the two of us, and we kind of stumbled into a situation that for a Mysore room doesn't always work to have two teachers that alternate within the same program.
Yeah.
But it just works so well for us. And yeah, so it's a bit of a dharmic pull to do what I do, and I feel even more so about that teaching Mysore. For the years that I taught in like lead style classes, it was never quite the right fit for me, because I was always, really drawn to the teaching and the connection with the students, and I wasn't particularly good at the performative aspect of,
Mm.
a pop yoga situation where you have
Yeah.
a different 30 or 40, 34 people in the room and different every day. Um, but we've kind of wandered from your original question, but 10 years teaching roughly, and taught sort of integrated hatha style, Ashtanga, Iyengar blended, and then full on Mysore for the past 3 years or so.
Nice. I
Yeah,
also I can you tell a little bit about I've heard so many good things about Annie Carpenter. Can you
yeah,
tell me a little bit about what is it about her that you enjoy studying with her? I've seen pictures of her ever since I started practicing in yoga journal books and magazines, and she just looks amazing. And I've
yeah,
seen, so can you just share a little bit about why you love her, or what you think is amazing about her? You kind of already did, but
yeah,
I'd love to know
yeah.
more.
Of course, Annie's rad. I mean, Annie set me on a path towards, Maty is the teacher I studied with up until she passed for so many years. And so I credit both of them, and as well Chuck Miller, who I spent a little bit of time with, not as much as Maty, and then a lot of Iyengar teachers in LA that I miss my Iyengar teachers. They kind of disappeared in COVID times. But Annie is just a uniquely talented uh, teacher in the sense that is outside of the yoga world. Like, she can command a room, has that charisma. So she's, clear communicator, and she has this background of Shivananda, Iyengar, Ashtanga, and she was a Martha Graham dancer and choreographer. So she has like a wide array of just movement background,
Yes.
and has she has the experience it takes to decide what part of which lineage is useful for her, and then she passes that down through to her students, which I think is the kind of thing that only a few people really qualified to do.
Yes.
Because when everyone gets in there and starts doing that, then we've lost the lineage
Mm.
and the tradition altogether. So I'm not generally a fan of like the way that modern vinyasa yoga has adapted to becoming something that doesn't have any foothold.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but she's a unique example of someone who can teach a vinyasa class that feels like it's in the stream.
Cool.
She's also just fun and funny, and like a general educational experience, right? She's someone who knows a lot about anatomy and physiology, and offers and she offers a lot of trainings that aren't necessarily teacher trainings, more like workshops for people who are just kind of like the geek out about things. So there's a
Yeah.
little bit of me that like just the geeking out part, academic inquiry. So she's for students who are a little type A and into the academic aspect of their practice. She's kind of a fun person to spend some time with because she knows it all.
That's cool.
And she led me, in the direction that I went from there.
Nice. And
Yeah.
you mentioned Maty Ezraty and Chuck Miller. Were you practicing
Mhm.
at the original Yoga Works in Santa Monica when they had that studio?
Um, I practiced and taught at the original Yoga Works in Santa Monica, but not while they had their Mysore program. Yeah, I mean, I entered the Ashtanga world kind of through the back door, which I feel great about. Uh, Maty, I spent several years right up until her passing, spending some, intensive periods of time with her, at least every year, if not more than once a year. She'd come for weeks at a time. But it was in the period between 2000 and I want to say 2011 up until she passed in, what was that, like 2020, 2019, just right, if my memory serves. So a good chunk of time with her. And that period, it's very interesting. She was similar to Annie. She was teaching very integrative yoga. She had kind of, she was not adhering to like what you would see now in Mysore, but she's still teaching Ashtanga. She was
Mm,
just teaching Ashtanga that was infused with a lot. She was spending time in Pune. So it had kind of, it was not a Mysore style education. That came later for me, like being what it was like to be really immersed in a Mysore room,
yeah.
because it was mostly led. So I spent a lot of time with Maty, but it's a different version of Maty than the people that were with her. I don't even know how old I would have been when she was doing like her 4 p.m. classes for years on Montana. It's probably a teenager. I did miss out
Mhm.
on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a second phase of her teaching, which is unique. I mean, it's unique. Like I have this such close bond and relationship with her in the second half of her life, but she was a different teacher then than when she was, running a Mysore program full time. And I've since spent some time with Dina Kingsburg, so I was still kind of trying to find those teachers for me, those old school teachers that
Yeah.
have, they're within the Ashtanga lineage, but, I'm a pretty irreligious person and I steer pretty far from any dogma the moment I sniff it out. So it's kind of who I look for, and it's great. I love it. I mean, the irony of that is the more senior and older, not to euphemize senior, but more senior teachers you kind of find, the less dogmatic they tend to be because the uh, they don't feel the need to defend something that doesn't need defending.
Mm, good point.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you made, I love the way that you made the analogy, like when you sniff out dogma. Can you think of ways that that's helped you in your yoga practice and maybe even possibly a way where it might have detracted in some ways? Does that make sense? Like sometimes
Mhm.
I'm like that too. Like I have like a cultometer that like soon as
Mhm.
I get this feeling, I'm like, other way. And then, but sometimes that keeps me so skeptical that I
Mhm.
wonder if I'm missing out on something by my skepticism. What have you noticed with that experience in yoga practice?
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. I mean, cynicism is a defense mechanism a lot of the times, and
Yep.
I probably it is very possible that my aversion to dogma perhaps comes from not understanding necessarily the tradition the way that I would if that had been like entry point one. Um, However, I really feel that I benefit from an astronaut's view of the larger project that we're
Mhm.
um, participating in and dedicating our time to as practitioners and life to as teachers, because I I don't see these distinctions, and I feel like very fortunate for that. That the radar has provided me like a very good sense of when you know it, you see it. Like what is it? The Supreme Court Justice
Mm,
Otter, that was his famous quote about the Obscenity Act. It's like when you know it, you see it. Like it's an intangible thing. So when you when you see or experience something real, you know it, and when you see or experience something that has veered off in some way, you
Yeah.
know it, and I don't think
Yeah.
that necessarily lines up with doing things exactly according to the way that any one particular lineage or tradition,
Mm, that's a good
you
point.
know,
Yeah.
suggests that you do. I in my in my practice, I benefited immensely because I feel such a strong intuitive sense of what I'm doing over how I'm doing it.
Mm, that's a good
And
point.
I feel as though I offer my students the, the space to develop that for themselves, so that I'm teaching them rather than just instructing them.
Yes.
Um, and I'm not even convinced that yoga can be taught.
Ooh, that's a good point. Can yoga actually even be taught? Well,
So I
well,
try to teach people
mm, like on the
using yoga.
same level of like, how do I teach happiness?
Yeah, right.
It's like you're either happy or not, but how do you teach someone to be happy? So you feel yoga has that sort of instinctual element that, okay, I have a question for you then. If imagine you're on a deserted island and you like one thing when I started doing some Buddhist style meditation courses and trainings and retreats and stuff, there was this concept that Buddha taught that anybody can achieve awakening, and that it's something that any human or anyone has the option to do. And I loved that idea that potentially you or I or someone can sit under a tree or something along that lines and have an awakening experience regardless of our background, our history, our all these different things we could go down, classifications. But then when I think of something like, say, if I was on a deserted island and and I had this idea, I want to learn Spanish or a foreign language, I wouldn't really be able to learn it unless I actually came in contact with someone that did know that language. Like I don't know that I'd be able to pull a foreign language out of thin air. Maybe someone would argue with me, like some super high rishi person would be like, no, you
Mm,
actually can't do that. But so I guess what I'm trying to get at is, do you think a teacher is necessary for yoga, or do you think it's more important or to get more legitimate or authentic that we just really have to seek within to figure it out?
mm. Very good question. I do think a teacher is necessary.
Right? Right?
And I've been a little bit teacherless myself for some time now. So I do think a teacher is necessary.
Help,
Um,
right? Yeah.
I feel is I guess the way that I think about that is strange. I guess I think about it in a strange way. I was a political consultant for about 10 years before I started teaching full time. So I still kind of think about things in like terms of like persuasion,
I'm
and
sorry, can I pause you?
uh,
You were a
yeah,
political consultant, is that what you said?
yes,
Can
like
you
a political
describe,
and media consultant.
can you define what a political consultant does?
Yeah. Well, I worked in Washington D.C. and L.A. Kind of split my
Wow.
time,
Wow.
and I provided like strategic framework, for issues,
Mm,
campaigns,
mm,
advertising, messaging, and then it was also causes that weren't apolitical, nonprofit
gotcha.
stuff like the Gates Foundation or the United Nations,
Uh-huh.
like when they have campaigns, like the United Nations had a Nothing But Nets campaign, which is an anti-malaria campaign, things like that, providing like messaging and strategic framework. And
Thank you.
I was a writer, copywriter, stuff like that, a speech writer, general strategic media communications consultant operative work.
Wow.
A straight, yeah,
That
not
sounds
the
like a serious
typical
job.
trajectory. That's a little bit what I mean when I'm like, I did not choose this. This chose me.
Yeah. These are two seemingly different paths, but all right. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just wanted to make sure I was on the right page.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they are very different paths in a lot of ways, but the same compulsion that I had, I'm not naive enough to think that working in politics is pure, but the same compulsion that I had to help and participate and engage and progress and do something, it, they to me feel like this, it feels like the same urge within me, um, in a lot of ways, somewhat of a fire to, you know, elevate the vibration.
Yes. Yes.
And it's on an individual level now, which in a way is, the less prestigious socially, but a lot more impactful to me and to them, I think, in the long run. Working with one person at a time, helping one person at a time, letting them help me, the collective healing that goes on, how we're all moving down this path together, a path that is, this is our path. It is not everyone's path, but they don't seem that different to me in terms of just getting to know myself and where, the things that have always driven me. But
That's
they are very different, and I get a lot of funny looks when I say that that's what I used to do.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a tangent. I was answering your question, which is fine. I'm with tangents. If you're interested, we can talk more about that. But
Bring you
your
back
question
here.
about needing a
Right.
teacher and the desert island, I suppose I just feel as though when I look at my practice, the Ashtanga lineage, and my role as a teacher, I see most of what we're doing to just be tactical. I see the poses and the sequence to be tactics, um, in the project of Ashtanga yoga to be the strategy. And you need teachers for those things, right? You need the lineage for those things. That's kind of where, like, that's the container that those things provide.
Yeah.
But the objective, the Maty, leads to the goal is ultimately, ego death and non-dual, like those things. When you've taken the framework and the container, which is really just this gigantic experiment in observing the nature of that all things are always changing,
Hmm.
when you need a teacher for that.
Yeah.
When you've superseded those things, that's where I don't know that you can be taught. Like, I don't know that you can be taught anything past the tactical and strategic framework. But those things require teachers, and they require teachers who have some sense of what comes after that, even if they've never, just some idea of where we're headed and why we're headed in that direction. And that's why I think these things are just not interchangeable, but Ashtanga is one method. It's a good method. It's not the only method. Yoga is one method. It's a good method. It's not the only method. Um, so I guess I don't see any of this as the answer.
Good answer. Yeah, I think that was a really good answer. I like the way they kind of pointed out the tactic and the strategy. Yeah, that can be taught. Definitely someone can help you with that. But the deeper inner workings, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
Do
the
you,
framework has to be taught, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and passed down. That's then it's a semantical distinction, right? Like,
Mm,
the role of the teacher. Like, well, I'm just a conduit. I'm a conduit of, it runs through me, and there's something unique in my experience that I have to offer when I pass it on. And my job is to take something that I got from someone and then find another way to get it to someone else.
yes,
Maybe that's teaching, but maybe it's just sharing,
I like that.
filtering. I don't know.
Do you think we could change the terminology yoga teacher training to like a yoga sharing training? Would that be a good word? Like if we were to try to look for a different, keep thinking about this all the time. I personally, my wife and I, we have a studio.
Hmm.
We do yoga teacher trainings, and I know there's like so much to talk about just that whole idea and concept. But and then when I think, well, what if we changed it to say a yoga sharing training? I just don't know that anybody would show up. So I get caught in this
You
little like quandary of like, I've got to call it that because that's what everybody's been trained to look for. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It's like the buzzword that, and would I really want to invest my time in something that's like a yoga sharing program or a yoga, you know what
It's
I mean?
also how
Like
you keep the doors open, I'm sure.
there's
You
that.
know,
Definitely.
there's that. That's
Big
what it
time.
comes,
Yeah.
it's no
Yeah.
no shade. That's how that is the structure. It's a bit of a flaw
Mhm.
in the setup.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not, that's that's no one studio's responsibility to solve,
Yeah.
unless you have some angel donor who wants to pay your bills, That I don't know. It's a tricky. I
Mhm.
could talk
Good
through what I
point.
think some sort of ideal would be, but it's not. We
Yeah.
don't live in an ideal world,
Ooh.
and also it's so I don't know. Like Judith Lassiter is someone who
Mm.
has just for years been really advocating for like a very formalized educational system
Mm.
akin to bachelor's, master's, PhD,
Yeah.
you know, teaching classes, bachelor, you need that much education. When you're dealing with therapeutics, things like that, those are specializations. I understand that instinct, but something about that is also very sanitized. I mean, this is not dental hygienist work.
Yeah.
There is something also about the way that
Mm.
if you look, I don't, you could share with me if you want, the teachers that have really embodied whatever it is about them that spoke to you. That I don't feel like most of these people like went to a career fair and decided like this is what I want to do, and then paint by numbers. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get myself my name out there. I'm gonna walk. Now I don't. This is not a criticism of the people who invest money in a training for a trade and then have to try to turn that into something. That's the world that we live in. That's how any other trade training system would work. You do it for a job. Um, but there's something about that eliminates that. Whatever it is that like the people who teach, it's because it's their dharma. It's because their practice became something that they just had to or had some unique ability to disseminate.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I don't know, but that doesn't leave anyone with any answers.
I agree. And I think, I don't know, I think a certain level of maturity that comes with wisdom is that we kind of understand there won't be an answer. I tried to get Praniti to solve an answer. I knew there's no way we're going to get to the answer, but I do like trying. You know what I mean? Even though I kind of know, I know we're not going to get there, but or maybe we will. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. When I first came across the Ashtanga, and I had taken yoga teacher training with Bikram in La Cienega Boulevard. Oh my gosh, back in 2001, and that was like torture chamber. And so then I took an easier path and went to Mysore. Just joking, that wasn't easier. And when I got to Mysore, I saw this system of where there was no teacher training, and it was like you just came and you practiced, and eventually, if you seemed worthy, you'd be authorized or, certified. But then, and I thought, oh, that looks like a very great way to do it. But then I started hearing other people are like, yeah, but man, I've been going to India for like 15 years and I keep doing everything that I'm supposed to do, but they just don't like me. And so they just won't let me. They won't give me that piece. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound so great either. You know what I mean? So I almost think if somehow those two things could be merged together. And I do think they are merged together because I feel like what you're doing, you're teaching from your heart, you're teaching what you've learned, and you're just teaching and you're not really worrying about, oh, I've got this piece of paper and this accreditation. At this point, you're just like, let me just get involved with these folks and help them out as best I can. Any thoughts around those ideas?
Well, I think I have two thoughts. I'll work in reverse order. I think any wisdom tradition of any kind within yoga or any faith-based tradition, it sits on a layer of ignorance. The wisdom is there, but nothing is pure. There is so much wisdom to a system that invites people to just come and to come enough that they then are qualified.
Yeah.
But as you point out, there's ignorance to that. There's so much wisdom to a 6-day a week consistent Ashtanga practice. There's also quite a bit of ignorance to that. And I think both are okay. I think both are okay. I think it's okay to
Yeah.
be okay with
Yeah.
the blind spots too. Um, it's good to acknowledge them. I think you get in trouble. I mean, that's when the dogma comes up, right? Like dogma is an autoimmune disease. It's just killing the thing it's trying to defend. It's just killing what it's trying to protect.
I haven't heard that before. I like that.
Well, I have autoimmune disease, so maybe I just thought of that. It's true though.
You said you do? You do have autoimmune?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I have a bunch of them. So I'm always kind of fascinated by that idea that
I'm so glad you mentioned that.
my body is killing myself trying to not killing myself. That
Yeah,
is
I understand.
really hyperbolic. My body is in an attempt to try to protect itself. It's creating all sorts of aggravations, and
Yes.
that is how I see dogma in any system. Its
Mm,
intentions are in the right place, but it is killing the thing it's trying to protect,
great
or
analogy.
suffocating it, or or not allowing it to flourish in its fullest. Maybe you're not killing it, but so yeah. So I guess I feel like there is no right way. Um, which reverse that to your original jumping off point about trying to get answers where there are no answers. I have this theory that practitioners, it can be broad, or we can speak specifically to the Ashtanga, like Ashtanga practitioners, which I do think is different when we're talking about the modern yoga world. There is a very big difference between Ashtanga practitioner and a very devoted practitioner of another kind, because there's this really heavy burden on the student when this is your practice, because the word practice really does mean a different thing within the Ashtanga tradition as it does in the other yoga lineages. And I am convinced that anyone who starts and continues down that path is not actually looking for answers. They are 100% comfortable with questions for the sake of questions.
Mm,
Because you couldn't be someone who needs an answer. You wouldn't keep coming.
that's a great point. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's a good point.
And yet, if you're in it, it makes perfect sense. It's like
Yeah.
if you walked out and you saw a bunch of people in a field digging holes, and then they went home and they came back, and the next day they're digging the same hole again. And then the next day there's like a few more people and they're digging, they're digging, they're digging. People would walk by and they would say, what are they doing? They must be looking for something. What's under there? They're looking for something clearly. And they start asking, and the people digging the holes every day, they answer on their terms, because, you keep digging long enough, you're going to hit spring a well, you're going to strike gold, you're going to find oil, things are going to happen. And then you can answer this, well, this is why I'm doing this, is why I'm doing this. Those people who don't there's a reason they're digging because of X, Y, and Z. But the people who keep digging on some fundamental level, they know the only reason they're digging is just to get a little deeper, because once they've struck gold, they don't stop. You just keep digging, and you're going to hit a root, and then you're going to fight. Like but it's so hard to explain that to people who don't have that same need for no answer, for no
Mm,
that whatever the pursuit of that practice, that absorption in the infinite. Like, what are you doing? What are you digging for? Like, you're digging to get deeper. That's the answer. That it's
oh,
just not satisfying. So we put it in the
I love
terms of the world and productivity. The same thing's happening with meditation practices. Like, you'd better sleep. clarity of thought. It's like we're trying to assign the reasons that people do these practices, when the people who do these practices on some level, they know they just do them to do them. There's something there. It's just not an answer.
Oh my gosh, Meredith, that is so cool. I have never had that visual painted for me like that. And I think like even if we just got off the conversation right now, I got enough to like just dig in on my own, like thinking
Pun
on that
intended.
one. Yeah, right. That is so great. Because like when I think about the
I,
Ashtanga room and you see people, we just keep going in there over and over and over and doing it and doing it. And you're right. Like what are we doing? But I do think that personally, I definitely been extremely drawn to I'm gonna dig because I'm gonna find something. So wait, let me just make sure I have this right. So are you thinking that
Me too. I'm just riffing, so
this is good? This is
we can
good.
clean the
So
metaphor up.
all right, cool. Let's polish it up a bit. If you were if we okay, so two different ways we could dig. One, I can dig just simply to dig, or two, I can dig because I'm digging for something. And so did I get that you're thinking that we have to be digging for a reason or else we just won't dig. So then I wonder what digging without
I think there's a reason.
dig.
I think the reason is because every time you dig, you go deeper.
Yeah, it's the
The
deeper.
depth,
It's
it's the
the
deeper.
deeper.
Why are
Deeper.
you digging? To go deeper.
Go deeper. Not necessarily looking for gold, for a root, for samadhi, for non-dualism.
But you'll hit those things, you'll get there.
Mm,
But those are fleet. Even samadhi is not a permanent state. You might
correct.
reach it one day, you go back the next day,
Yep.
and you're just thinking about doing the
Yeah.
laundry.
Good point.
But you didn't stop going. You didn't stop going. You're trying to narrow the target so that you pass through it more often and stay for longer.
I know where I'm going to end up when I keep digging.
Hmm.
China.
I know. I
You
don't
know
know if
that?
that
Yeah,
when you were a
yeah,
kid.
yeah,
I don't know if kids
right?
still think that, if that was like a
Right?
90s thing or
That
what.
was such a nice, that
to
was an
dig
80s
to
thing
China.
even. Like if you dig
80s,
down, you're
90s.
gonna get to China. Like it
I
was
was
an,
gonna say that, and then I was like, that's weird. No one will know what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I was just thinking when I was saying, I was like, were you digging for to get to China?
which is
I
that's a really interesting point, right? Because I mean, we are gonna, gosh, this is gonna push buttons, but I mean, that's a whole nother subject that the world's superpowers are all going to either A, collide or B, coalesce in some way, or both. It'll be a combo of collision and coalescing. But that might take us more down. I don't think that's political. Another question, since you mentioned that you're a political correspondent, how can it, okay, you're a yoga teacher, and so and you know how heated everything is, and so let's not like let anybody know what our politics are. No one has to know what we think about any of that. But how, as a teacher, do you approach keeping equanimity in the yogashala when politics comes up? Being a political correspondent, I'm thinking you had to have dug in deep. Now I can't even say digging in deep anymore because we're going to keep going to that analogy. But
my
what
weird metaphors
I
for
love it.
heated.
I love it. That was awesome.
I know.
How do
I'm
you,
married to a man who doesn't understand any of this, so he's always like, what are you doing?" Like I used to be a distance runner. It was the same thing. He's like, "Where are you running to?" I was like, "I don't know."
Mhm. I saw that funny
Anyway,
joke. Like the only reason I would run is like, who's chasing you? Like, well,
yeah.
what?
What do you want to? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
I say that to my students all the time whenever they're like tripped up. It's either they want to pose too much, or whenever fear or aversion comes into the asana practice, I say nothing to run to, nothing to run from. Like that's what I
Mhm.
tell them. Anyway, politics does not come up in our shala. It doesn't. It's an interesting question for sure. I'm trying to think just academically about how I would handle it. It hasn't very much for me. Or what might be true is I might be very ignorant to that it has. And because most of the people in Los Angeles and most of the people in a yoga community are assumed to have alignment, then maybe it does come up, and it's like explaining water to a fish. Maybe I'm not aware of what it would feel like to someone who might not be of the same persuasion. Because to me, I'm like, my answer is like, it's never happened. But maybe it has, and maybe it has, and maybe it hasn't been
Good answer. That's cool.
acknowledged.
That's cool.
Um, I
Yeah.
feel like it's a little bit more right now with global politics that seem a little bit stickier,
Mhm.
um, just because we are a truly diverse shala, in all of the ways. Like
That's what's
not
so fun.
not
Yeah.
yeah, like
I loved hearing about.
in every way you could imagine the word diversity being defined. We fit that bill, so there might be a little bit more tension. I feel like right around, but it hasn't come up, and I don't know of anyone who has felt like they are not welcome as a
Cool.
result. We
You
don't
know,
go there. We're
I,
not we're not
yeah,
activists
yeah, yeah.
in the room.
Smart.
Yeah,
Me
I don't
neither.
even know if Pranati and I have the same politics,
That's awesome.
um, which I kind of like. Right, like we're very, in addition to being colleagues, we're very close friends. Um, I mean, we talk every day. We talk about kids, like everything, but like, we don't talk politics. So I can't even be certain that we agree. Which I like that.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's a safe space. It's like, look, let's just
Yeah,
focus on what we're here for currently.
yeah.
What I'm finding interesting because for those of you listening, if you haven't listened to it's like maybe I don't know, like 8 or so episodes back, Praniti Varshney, and so that's you, Meredith. You teach at the same studio, so that's how I got a chance to meet you because I asked Praniti if she could recommend somebody, and she said, "Well, actually, I
Mm-hmm.
can. Yeah, Meredith is amazing. You got to talk to her."
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's really cool to hear two sides of the story from the same place. I'm enjoying. I think that's neat, and I think like when, like you said, sometimes programs operate better if there's like one cook in the kitchen, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you both have been able to have two cooks in the kitchen. Um, what else are you observing in your studio?
Two cooks with totally different backgrounds and totally different styles too.
Dude, like, yeah,
It's pretty
one,
remarkable how well it works.
that's cool. The common thread
Yeah.
being you have children, it sounds like. I mean, there's probably a lot of common threads, but you both are attempting to raise your children, young children, and be yoga teachers at the same time, which is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Parenting and working, I think any job full time or just working, period, as a parent is challenging. So let me take you down that track. As a parent, what are you noticing these days raising children? What are some of the things you've bumped up against in terms of challenge and or joy or both?
What is it? There's a book, a parenting book, maybe about 10 years old now. I think that the title was All Joy and No Fun. Maybe that was the title of the book.
All
Really
joy.
sums it up. All joy and no
And
fun.
that's good. A lot of joy,
Um,
no fun.
all joy and no fun.
Great. That's great.
It's a pretty good way to talk about parenting because
Yeah.
it is very joyful, but it is not fun. I have, I have no relationship with fun on my life right now.
How old are your
Um,
children? How old?
2, 4, and 7.
Holy Moses. Yeah. Two, four, and
Yeah,
7. Yeah.
yeah. So they're
Yeah.
each about 2 years apart. My oldest two are about a little over 2 years apart. So I had 3 children within 4 years, and it was straddled the pandemic. So it was wild.
Mm.
Um, which the pandemic went on for a very long time in LA.
Yes. Yes.
We had
Really
yeah,
good.
so we
Yeah.
very
I think
we're
when
very close family because of it, like very tight knit, the five of us, which is nice. But
yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So
parenting.
yeah. So what? I'll throw one at you and then let you come back with something. My son is 17, my daughter is 10, and my wife yesterday flew up to take care of her mom who had an injury recently, so she's helping out for a week. So this is my first official week alone with the kids. Now, granted, my son's 17 and my daughter's 10, so there's a amazing dynamic that keeps progressing here, as you know. But I would say it's a little easier for me than if you left the three of them with your husband today. Like it's a different story when you have a 2-year old to a 17-year old. But and so I feel my wife did a great job of like getting all of the food for each day, for each lunch packed up neat and nice. And she made up a list of like, okay, on Monday this is happening and make sure she remembers this. And on Tuesday he has that, make sure you got this. And she got a bunch of meals ready. Like, so she set me up for major success, right? So yesterday was my like official first day, and my daughter last night was definitely crying and emotional and really missing mom, and so there's a little bit like I really appreciate that because I think mom is mom. Like, how can you can't I'm not saying I compete to be on equal level with mom. So she was crying and saying, Dad, I'm so sorry that I'm crying and I'm making you feel bad because I'm saying I miss mom. And it's because I kept saying, like, well, I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And so, oh, oh my gosh, joyful because I love him so much. But I don't want to say it was like super challenging, but I definitely, it pulls the heart in such a way that it's just amazing. It's challenging and amazing at the same time. I don't know if that got your wheels to spin any direction. Like you get you going on
Challenging and
something, but
amazing. Um, I mean, I feel beholden to my children in the way that I never have or would or expected or wanted to be beholden to anything in my life. And I feel like that is a great gift and also something I'm sometimes very resentful of, because even when the world allows me to take space, I don't want to, and don't know how to. And as someone who's done a very good job of trying to, you know, be both within the world, be of the world and not in the world and not of the world, and sort of like not, I've never, back to our bullshit sniffing out thing, like I've always kind of been a little bit of a freedom fighter, wanting to kind of like know when I'm coming, know when I'm going, maintain that uh, fluidity for my own experience of things. Like I've lost that entirely. um, with my children. I don't have any sense of separate self around them. But I think that's a season, right? My kids are very
yeah,
young
yeah,
and getting less young. And I think that it'll be actually a rough transition. It's just been so intense for so long.
yeah.
Um, it's just it is kind of the season that I'm in. And I chose to have my children later, like so many, millennials have done. And that's great. I certainly don't like encourage people to have children younger, because I don't think that anyone knows how hard it is and how much life experience and maturity you need. But there is something that I think is somewhat unique to people in my little slice of all of this, is when my children are done being young and needing me, I am like full on middle age. like like there's not, it's sort of like, no, like everyone's looking
Oh,
towards retirement at that point. Like the
oh,
idea of
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
starting a larger project, which I've always kind of, I always have writing projects and things going on, that I'm like, I don't know, are these real things, or are these tinkering things? Because when they truly don't need me around the clock like they do, like, I don't know, I think I'm gonna be kind of tired. I think I might want to relax a little bit. Um,
yes,
but I don't know. I would teach more. I would teach a lot more. That's what I will do. I hope to do. We're adding them, not yet announced, but we're going to pilot an afternoon Mysore program. We're trying to add some things to offer our community more opportunities to practice, because now my kids are at the age where I can bring them with me, to give them a little Sesame Street. And we run like that. Like our shala is very family friendly. So if we need to bring our kids, we bring our kids. That's the only way it works. So we really have like a community center vibe in that way. So things are starting to like free up, and uh, that's good. That's good for everyone involved. I feel like parenting in these times, and I think in your opening, you just asked for like a unique challenge. I am constantly feeling it's like I want to say this all the time, and no one I don't know if anyone else feels this way or if anyone um, makes this connection, but this the pressure to be present with your children is 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 under assault every
Mm.
30 seconds because I am on 25 group text chains. I have a text chain. I have text chains that are like preschool moms, then three different groups of text chains within the preschool moms, and then I got another one started today. That's for one kid. In addition to work stuff, family stuff, all the friends from down the street to childhood, and I'm the only one that can't seem to keep up with this. I swear I'm the only person. If I after this, I will send you a screen grab of my phone. I think I have like, I mean, my husband, who's the type of person who's like, he's very project manager type. Like he can handle 1,000 things that come at him at a day. No big deal. And I'm like, I just want to sit around and like think all day. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like a big picture visionary type. I'm not very good at the implementing things, but I feel like I'm under assault all day long with the expectation of staying in contact with people, and I find it to be
Yeah.
impossible. And I get flack from all of my friends. They sometimes play games where they will text and then they will set bets on how long it will take for me to text them back.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
I get punked by them all the time. They're like play like I'm so bad, I'm so and I don't know how people are staying on top of it and also trying to be present with their children. So that seems to me like a unique. It's not maybe it's not a problem for everyone, but I conjecture that it is, and they just don't feel it as much as I feel. Something about it feels so oppressive to me, and I don't feel like it's real connection. But I mean, I'm a little bit of a social introvert. Like I have lots of friends and I like seeing my friends, but I get very overwhelmed very easily. So not that surprising for someone who likes to go to a quiet room for most of my day with my phone out of the way. And I just find this to be like a really unique challenge today in parenting where there's no space for solitude, or there's no time when you feel like you aren't needed by someone else or in another place. It's probably an age old problem. It just seems to be on steroids. Um, and I can't. Yeah, I can't. I feel like I'm constantly falling out of the loop, um, and that doesn't feel great. You know, I don't feel like I like to be like a reliable, dependable person that knows what's going on in everyone's life. But I don't know. That's really the biggest challenge for me is not. And it's not even like a larger criticism of media. Like I don't have, I let my kids watch little TV. Like I don't have a problem with technology in general. It's something about the way that we're all communicating in these really fractured ways, that has left me falling further and further and further and further behind the curve.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess when it's all over, I'd still rather just hang out with my kids when I can.
Yes.
But if my parents listen to this, they're gonna be like, "Call me back." I like have four
Like,
voicemails have just come in on this
why
we
are
can
you doing a
call live.
podcast with this guy you don't even know and you haven't answered your voicemails yet?
Oh, I'd
Come
so much rather do this.
on.
But see, this is a conversation.
No,
This is
I'm
not a
having fun.
text chain with
I
45 people. I met
really,
you
bro.
today and I would still rather do this. It's hard.
Well,
That's particularly hard for me, parenting.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate you being very honest about that and taking the time to lay that out because I definitely feel that too. And I know those of you listening are feeling that as well. I'm sorry. I mean, it's moving at a speed that is, I mean, I'm 50, so I grew up in a totally different technological realm and it's crazy to me how different it is now. I'm trying to embrace it, but at the same time, oh, I hear you, Meredith. I hear you. It's wild. I mean, personally, at the end of the day, I mean, I'll get so tired that the thought of like, I think I just want to like do something with my kids, but I'm so exhausted. I just want to, I have to just lay down. Like, I just have to lay down. And, I'm like, So I'm with you. I know it's challenging. It's a big one. It's a real big one. But I guess I know you know this, and I'm not saying I'm out of the woods yet, but I guess I was gonna say it gets easier, but I'd be lying to you. It doesn't really get easier. My son, I mean, he's driving and oh my gosh. I mean, it's a whole nother level of like, so but it does get easier. I do think so. It's just a different type of problem. It's just the
Yeah.
challenges and the problems are just they're there. It's just different and unique and ooh.
That is the devotional element of the practice, right? Is the that
Yeah.
is to the nature of change. It's
Yeah.
always changing. Like
Yep.
it's all, that like change doesn't always mean progress. It's going to get harder, it's going to get easier, it's going to get harder, it's going to get easier. I
Yeah.
have mostly just opted out of staying in contact with a lot of people, to be
Yes.
honest. But
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like I talked to my mother who raised us when we were very small, like in a small mountain town in Colorado, and that I'm sure had its own isolation and challenges. But I like have this very
Like a fantasy.
unfair fantasy about it.
Mm,
Like
yeah.
I'm just like, oh,
Yep.
tell me again about how you'd be snowed in for months.
Oh gosh, right? Oh gosh, let me just take me to that place. Just take me there,
Probably
mom.
like
Tell me that
she
story
probably has
again.
PTSD about it. I mean, I'm one of those people that,
Good point.
you
Yeah.
know, truly. I mean, she's a little bit more social than me and doesn't, but oh, I'm sure it was like the worst time of her life because had babies in blizzards, and I'm like, oh my god, tell me about it again.
Oh god. Oh
But
yeah.
that's yeah. I
Yes.
am My life is good. I have far fewer challenges than pretty much anyone in any point in history. So fine.
I hear ya.
And I get to do this, I get to do this, which is not nothing.
Oh my gosh. So on that note, Meredith, I know we're getting really close to our hour, so I'm just gonna
Hmm.
throw one more thing at you, just because I thought it was so great. I went on your Instagram today, which everybody listening, it's Meredith underscore Fogg underscore Liebross, and I'll have that in the link, so it'll be easy. You can click on it. And two things that I love. One, you're teaching a workshop called a Niyama workshop, but you spelled knee, Knee dash Yama. And I like, love it. That's creative. So classic. A workshop about the knees. But then the other little meme that you have, there's two little cartoon characters, and one says to the other, "What's your dream job?" And the other one says, "Why would I dream of labor?" And they both stare at each other. And then the person starts walking away, and the one says, "Where are you going?" And the other one says, "To rethink my life." And I cracked up because, like, yeah, when you're overworked, you're like, my dream job. What part of me is gonna be dreaming about working my butt off every day? So,
And
oh,
if you look
love it.
underneath that one, what my copy, my caption,
Oh, I gotta
I
read.
think it says to no one in particular.
Posting with no one specific person in mind at Libros.
Yeah, so it's very passive aggressive,
So your
elbow
husband.
into the side of my
Oh,
workaholic husband.
aha. There's more to the
I have a
story.
Yeah.
There's more.
Oh yes,
Look at that.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much. There's so many good layers. I did not pick that up. When I read the caption below, I was like, I don't get it. I'm not sure what she's talking about, but I didn't click on
Yeah,
I didn't click on his profile. So now
yeah.
that
And speaking of my husband, every time he goes, no one understands anything. He's like, you're very funny, but no, but it's not, but no one understands. That's not what Instagram is for. I was like, do it for me. Yeah, I do. Like as we started out, like I have it's a personality trait slash maybe defense mechanism. I don't know, but I definitely peddle in humor. Like that's how I engage with the world. That's how I engage with people. How I handle anxiety, social anxiety, anything is just like being witty, funny, kind of silver tongued. So that's just how I process everything. I have to have like a little bit of a tongue in cheek
well then
attitude
my
about
last
it.
my last question for you then is how do you get your friends that punk you with the bets about how long it takes? There's got to be a good comeback. There's got to be something you could do to comedically respond to the bets. How long is it going to take? It's going to take her 2 days. I'm giving a bet $20. It's going to take her 2 days. There's got to be something. I'll try to think of it.
Oh, when I know they're doing it, I text back immediately
Oh God.
with like I also have
With
like a
dollar
hang up.
signs.
I do it like, and they know that I'm messing with them because I'll put an exclamation mark at the end, which I know is not, or like two exclamation marks. I have a pet peeve against exclamation marks. So yeah, no, I don't.
Eh, this is great. Into the mind of
They
it.
yeah.
There's a lot here. I might have to do a follow-up podcast with you. I've barely scratched the surface.
Oh,
But thank you, Meredith, so much for
yeah,
taking time out of your busy day. I know you got away from the city, you're in the country now, and so hopefully you have a awesome moon day tomorrow.
yeah. No,
Uh,
it's great. I'm heading up to Santa Barbara to practice with Steve Dwelly, who's a good teacher up there, old school teacher. So
Very
great
cool.
day and adult
Very cool.
conversation. This has been a uniquely good afternoon.
No, I got
Really awesome
logos
to meet
and
you and
yeah.
talk to you.
Well, thank you, Meredith.
Yeah,
I have family out there, so next time I come out, I really want to visit your studio. So I really look forward to it. And once again, thank you so much. And I will be in touch.
yeah. You should absolutely come. We have the best thing going there, and it's just we're
Sounds like
all
it.
organic. We don't really market or promote or anything, and we wind up just it has just worked, and that is to Prani's credit for eight. You know, I've been with her for the past 3 years or so, but
Oh,
the
she's been
Shala is a
phenomenal.
very uniquely it runs on integrity. It really does. Her contribution to the community is incredible, and I'm just it has changed my life to get to be there and doing the thing that I just can't seem to quit. which is which is teaching yoga. But yeah, we would love to have you. That'd be awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, Meredith.
All right,
I'm gonna make a
cool.
point of it. All right. Have a great practice tomorrow.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.